fast asleep. Hold me closely, dear. Keep me safe and near. Because the world is so cold and we got a little fire burning here. You can steal all the covers, yeah, but don't you leave this bed. Days like this and us were made for each other. Who knows what will happen next? Oh. Tell me your secret, and I will tell a lie. I'll say it's Saturday morning and the stars are all still in the sky. Baby, you can fake it, pretend you're still asleep, but that smile on your face tells me you can hear everything. You can steal all the covers, yeah, but don't you leave this bed. Days like this and us were made for each other. Who knows what will happen next? Oh, oh, oh. You can steal all the covers, but don't you leave, no, don't you leave this bed. Days like this and us were made for each other, and I'm not gonna give you up just yet. We can lay around and sleeping in for hours. We can get a little closer, baby, yeah. Just let me slip back underneath those covers. Who knows what will happen next? Oh, oh. I'm another year older now, still a few years from my prime. Some say I'm still a kid, but they know I'm not a child. It's tragic, it's a little sad, but what happens at this moment make or break the man. It's time for a celebration, it's time for a reckoning, it's time for a conversation with friends I've lost along the way. It's time to turn a new leaf over, it's time to make a change, it's time to make time for the ones who cared for me. Oh, it's better to be lonely than to be alone, and sometimes
You're listening to the Jams and Coffee Morning Show with your host, Brad Rock.
listeners, welcome to the Jams and Coffee Morning Show here on YouTube, Facebook, or JNC Radio via the Live365 app or jncpodcast.com. I am your host, Brad Brock, and happy to be here on this Tuesday morning. Thank you so much for joining me. Yes, we are today on the eve of the Jams and Cocktails Halloween Spooktacular. And as you can see, some of the decorations have already gone up here in the legendary JNC Lounge. Can't really see much from this angle, but yeah, they're there. So we're very excited. We've got some great special guests coming to hang with us and party. We'll be in costumes, the whole 9 yards. Bye, Jordan. Jordan will even be in a costume. She doesn't know what she's going to do yet, but she'll be in one. Oh, you do? Oh, she said she does. Last I heard, she was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do for myself. That's how she talks. When she thinks that I'm an idiot. She looks at me and she goes, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. That's how she talks to me. Just saying. Love you. One of these days, with all of your support out there, we'll be able to make so much money that we can quit our jobs and just sit here and live stream together with you guys all the time. So just keep doing what you're doing. One day it'll be a dream come true. Yes, but it is Tuesday, October 25th. We are marching ever closer to Halloween and in Fantasy Fest. Those of you that like to go down there, we will be down next weekend for Fantasy Fest with the Code Rum crew, Johnny Ringo and company. Of course, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but we're staying at the Coconut Cove Resort in Isla Mirada, and then on Saturday we're taking a double-decker bus, a whole group of us, all the way down to Key West to hang out for the last day of Fantasy Fest with the parade and all that other fun stuff. So it's a good time. We missed the parade last year because it was canceled. So we decided to just stay at Coconut Cove while everybody else went down to Key West. And we had the whole place to ourselves. It was wonderful. But, yeah, what you going to do? So if you're going to be down in Fantasy Fest, reach out, hit me up. Let's hook up and have a drink down there in Key West. The weather today, the look out the window is beautiful. It looks wonderful. It's going to be partly sunny near the coast with a few inland showers possible. Tomorrow, the highs are going to be in the low to mid-80s with a few afternoon inland showers. As we get to the midweek here, a front is approaching, but it's going to stall out, according to meteorologists and forecasters. Some showers and storms are going to be possible with the front increasing moisture and instability. The highs will be in the low to mid-80s through the middle of the week. And for the weekend, the highs are going to be in the mid-80s. Some spotty showers possible moving along inland for afternoon hours, but that's not going to matter to me because I'm going to be all the way down in the Florida Islands. That's right, in the Keys. So not going to make a bit of difference to old Brad. We got some national days, quite a few today. Let's take a peek at them. But it's going to take a second because I restarted my computer. I don't even know where that went. Nowhere, apparently. Sometimes, you gotta do a fresh computer restart. Everything seems to run a little bit better. Clearly not the case for me at the moment. Oh, here we go. It's National Merry Music Day. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you. October 25th celebrates National Merry Music Day to honor an innovative sound system and a music concept that began post-World War II in Jamaica. On National Merry Music Day, we're celebrating the Merrytone sound system as the oldest sound system on the planet. Merrytone is the only sound system founded in the original sound system era of the 1940s and 1950s that's still in operation. The last sound standing, Merrytone music encourages music lovers around the globe to learn about the historical movement that has influenced musical genres in Jamaica and the world. So what is a sound system? Well, unless you've been living under a rock. And if you have, this is for you. Sound system of the late 1940s and 50s is a public address apparatus with turntables attached to it for sound reinforcement and the amplification of music. Today's sound systems are still a big part of the Jamaica musical scene, with many famous selectors, aka also known as DJs. Original sound systems were born out of a need to bring music and entertainment to Jamaica's working class. Before the sound system, musical entertainment in Jamaica came from live bands. The cost associated with these events limited attendees to upper-class Jamaicans and tourists. Thus, with the introduction of the sound system, contemporary music was brought to the masses. Sound systems played at house parties, lawns, and dance halls. There you go. Thank you, Jamaica. God, so much good stuff has come out of Jamaica. What else is going on today? Ooh, where's my mouse? There we are. Let's see. Oh, a good one for me. It's National Greasy Foods Day. Oh, finally. 2 days in a row. We had National Bologna Day yesterday. Now it's National Greasy Foods Day. But those watching the scale, beware. You're going to have to augment the diet for the National Greasy Foods Day here on October 25th. Although it's not the healthiest of choices, every once in a while, it's okay to enjoy some greasy food. From fried chicken, pizza, nachos, and french fries to bacon and hash brown potatoes. Put all that together on one plate. We all like a treat in our regular diet. Cooking oil types include, of course, olive oil, palm oil, soybean oil, canola, pumpkin, corn, sunflower, safflower, peanut, grapeseed, sesame, agrin, rice bran, and other vegetable, and butter and lard. Oh, sounds delicious. Greasy foods can be prepared with healthier oils and with much less than the average amounts of oils when used when cooking, and making them a much healthier choice. I prefer putting things in the air fryer. You know, literally in the air fryer, just a spattering of oil will get that crispy effect that you would get if you dunked it in a whole deep fryer. Air fryer, coolest contraption ever conceived by mankind to be made small enough and convenient enough to put in your kitchen. It's wonderful. We kill ours, man. It's unbelievable. Anybody else love their air fryer as much as I do? It's great. Well, let's see. What else we got going on here today? Philip says we're enjoying our air fryer. Good. Great contraption. Oh, yes. How we can forget? As we're marching so close and ever closer to Halloween, today is National Chucky the Notorious Killer Doll Day, observed annually on the 25th of October. For those who aren't Chucky fans, you have a pass, but all others, you get your popcorn and beverages of choice and hit play. Some who celebrate dress up as Chucky. Those who collect Chucky merchandise add to their collections. Others take a thrill in learning new behind-the-scene facts or reading up on Chucky fan pages. This creepy horror flick is a staple of the 1980s. And Chucky has a full name. Did you know that? His name is Charles Lee Ray. And he gets it from 3 real-life notorious killers. Can anybody guess who they are? If you could tell me who they are, I'll give you a round of applause. Because this article doesn't even tell me. Yeah, Charles Lee Ray. Yeah, Chucky Day. How about that? Today is also National Sourest Day. Follows on the heels of the Sweetest Day. The Sourest Day is the sourest day of the year is observed annually on October 25th. If life is giving you lemons or you feel like a grumpy Gus, this day's for you. Take your glass half full attitude and spread the joy or gloom. Smiles be banished. Replace them all with pouts and terrible frowns. Wallow in your petulant mood. Take sulking to new lows. Frown like a clown, catching the midnight train out of town. I can't read any more of this. Whoever wrote this article is wonderful. Yes. Be a sourpuss today. If you're a sourpuss every day, the day is for you. I imagine that Charles Manson has to be one of those in that name. That only makes sense. It's International Artists Day. Celebrate that on October 25th, and it honors artists and all the contributions they make. The day also celebrates one of the most famous artists. Of course, we're talking about Pablo Picasso. The Spanish artist was born on October 25th, just a few years ago in 1881. Do you know he lived until, 1973? That's crazy. Pablo Picasso knew the Beatles. He knew the Beatles' music, or at least had the potential of hearing it. He saw the band disband. Unreal. Pablo Picasso. Artists work hard to create their work. They add beauty to the world around us. Most artists work with many different mediums. Not only that, but the word artist encompasses painters, photographers, sculptors, musicians, dancers, writers, actors, digital artists, and more. When one is born with a creative gift, that creativity flows into many different areas. For example, Picasso was a painter, sculptor, ceramicist, poet, and a playwright. Things we learn. Art came about long before written works. Since the beginning of time, artists communicated ideas and kept records of important events. Art offers a connection to the past. Artists record our history indelibly. Really? They also unearth truths. Through their work, they tell stories and pass on traditions. Artists have a unique way of connecting to the people around them. A world full of bad news, one of their most important roles is to offer messages of hope. So happy International Artists Day. What else do we have here? It's World Pasta Day. Greasy food and pasta. You know what makes a good greasy food and pasta dish is a chicken parm. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite meals, I would say, probably on earth, is a good chicken parm. Love it. World Pasta Day celebrates one of the world's most favorite and most versatile foods. You've probably eaten pasta at one time in your life. Chances are you eat it several times a week. What exactly is pasta? Well, this carbohydrate-rich food is made from unleavened dough that comes from durum wheat flour. The flour is mixed with water or eggs and then formed into sheets, and pasta is cooked by either boiling or baking. One of the most amazing things about pasta is there are over 350 kinds, and I'm going to go over each and every one of them. I'm just kidding. We'll be here all month. But there are a lot. So get out there and eat some pasta today, you carb freaks. I think that's it for the national days. If I've missed one or there's one I should know about, please put it in the chats and comments. And we'll talk about it. It is Taco Tuesday after all. Happy to taco about it. And but yeah, so get out there and celebrate something. I will likely get out and celebrate National Greasy Food Day. That's the one I'm choosing. Sounds good for my heart. What else is going on out there? Yes, Philip says I like carbs too much. He said he likes tacos, too. Tacos can be greasy. Especially if I make them myself. You get in there and you do the ground beef. You strain the beef, but not too much. So that when you get the taco and you bite into it, it just kind of juices everywhere. Oh, might have to do that. I'm going to find a greasy taco truck somewhere nearby. Oh, we got a few news stories today. Well, some sad, some interesting, some polarizing. All good things. We'll start with this interesting story I found. New study. I like to get into these studies. A new study out suggests that swarming bees may potentially change the weather. Well, how exactly? I'm going to tell you. Swarming bees produce so much electricity that they may actually affect local weather, according to new research. The finding, which researchers made by measuring the electrical fields around honeybees and their hives, reveals that bees can produce as much atmospheric electricity as a thunderstorm. This can play an important role in steering dust to shape unpredictable weather patterns. Their impact may even need to be included in future climate models. It's good to know the bees are out there still doing their thing. Remember, what is it like? It might have been a few weeks ago, or months at this rate. We were talking about, we got to protect the bees. The bees are endangered. But there's still enough of them to change weather? Interesting. But bees are important, so we should definitely protect them. Insects' tiny bodies can pick up positive charge while they forage, either from the friction of air molecules against their rapidly beating wings. Did you know that honeybees can flap their wings more than 230 times a second? Or they can be positively charged from landing onto electrically charged surfaces. But the effects of these tiny charges were previously assumed to be on a small scale. But now, a new study published just yesterday in the journal iScience shows that insects can generate a shocking amount of electricity. We only recently discovered that biology and static electric fields are intimately linked, and that there are many unsuspected links that can exist over different spatial scales, ranging from microbes in the soil to plant pollinator interactions to insect swarms in the global electric circuit. It's according to first author Ellard Hunting, a biologist at the University of Bristol. Static electricity emerges when the microscopic bumps and pits on two surfaces rub over each other, causing friction. This causes electrons, which are negatively charged, to jump from one surface to another, leaving one surface positively charged while the other surface becomes negatively charged. Everybody got that? The transfer across the two ionized surfaces sets up a voltage difference, or potential gradient, across which the charges may leap. Let's see. Electrostatic potential gradient, which can give you a shock when touching a doorknob after walking across a carpet. Anybody ever done that? You scoot your feet across the carpet and then you touch your friend. Get a little pop. It can also charge lightning through the friction of ice clumps inside clouds. And legend has it, this phenomenon was demonstrated by Benjamin Franklin when he and his son flew a kite during a thunderstorm, noting that the kite's wet string conducted sparks from the storm cloud to a key attached to its end. Legend has it. Electrostatic effects emerge throughout the insect world. They enable bees to draw pollen to them and help spiders spin negatively charged webs that attract and ensnare the positively charged bodies of their prey. So there's a reason for this. Interesting. To test whether honeybees produce sizable charges in the electric field of our atmosphere, the researchers placed an electric field monitor and a camera near the site of several honeybee colonies. In the 3 minutes that the insects flooded into the air, the researchers found that the potential gradient above the hives increased to 100 volts per meter. In other swarming events, the scientists measured the effect as high as 1,000 volts per meter, making the charge density of a large honeybee swarm roughly 6 times greater than electrified dust storms and 8 times greater than a storm cloud. Holy shit. The scientists also found that denser insect clouds meant bigger electrical fields, an observation that enabled them to model other swarming insects such as locusts and even butterflies. Locusts often swarm to biblical scales, according to the scientists, creating thick clouds 460 square miles in size and packing up to 80 million locusts into less than half a square mile. The researchers' models predicted that swarming locusts' effect on the atmospheric electric field was staggering, generating densities of electric charge similar to those made by thunderstorms. Researchers say it's unlikely the insects are producing storms themselves, but even when potential gradients don't meet the conditions to make lightning, they can still have other effects on the weather. Electric fields in the atmosphere can ionize particles of dust and pollutants, changing their movement in unpredictable ways. As dust can scatter sunlight, knowing how it moves and where it settles is important to understanding a region's climate. Interdisciplinarity is valuable here. Electric charge can seem like it lives solely in physics, but it's important to know how aware the whole natural world is of electricity in the atmosphere. That's according to Hunting. Thinking more broadly, linking biology and physics might help with many puzzling problems, such as why large dust particles are found so far from the Sahara. We talked about that too. The Sahara dust comes all the way across the Atlantic Ocean, lands in the Amazon, feeding it. Paul from Drums and Rubs says this story is shocking. Funny guy, Paul. You're a funny guy. That's Drew Jason Keller tuning in over on Facebook. What's up, brother? Oh, let's see. Interesting story, huh? Electric bees. We'll go on to some sad news. Get this one out of the way. Leslie Jordan, beloved actor and social media star, has passed away at 67. Super, super young. Known, of course, for his work on Will and Grace. His agent announced that he passed away. The story is, well, I'll get to that. Jordan's talent agent said in a statement, the world is definitely a much darker place today without the love and light of Leslie Jordan. Not only was he a mega talent and joy to work with, but he provided an emotional sanctuary to the nation as one of its most difficult times. What he lacked in height, he made up for in generosity and greatness as a son, brother, artist, comedian, partner, and human being. Knowing that he's left the world at the height of both his professional and personal life is the only solace one can have today. Leslie Jordan, if you don't know, stood at a staggering 4'11". His attorney, Eric Fig, said beyond his talents, Leslie's gifts of bringing joy to those he touched, his ability to connect with people of all ages, his humility, kindness, and sweetness will be sorely missed by all. Leslie Jordan was involved in a car accident yesterday morning in Hollywood. He was pronounced dead at the scene, according to the L.A. County Coroner. That was a spokesperson for the L.A. Fire Department. Other reports said that he had some sort of medical emergency or medical problem that happened, possibly a heart attack that caused him to lose control of his car. But sad story, man. A great actor, a wonderful spirit, and gone too soon at 67, in my opinion. Philip said he was born from Tennessee in Chattanooga, he thinks. Possibly with that accent. Not hard to believe. So sail on, Leslie Jordan. What else is going on? Oh, we had some big news happening right here on the Treasure Coast in Fort Pierce last night. As the sun set on the Sunrise City, Fort Pierce, for those of you that don't know. Monday evening, the party was just getting started at the historic Sunrise Theater in downtown Fort Pierce, where former U.S. Representative Charlie Crist and incumbent Governor Ron DeSantis dueled in their lone debate of the 2022 election. Of course, these two are going head-to-head for the governorship of the great state of Florida. Charlie Crist, of course, a former governor, a Republican governor at that. He's now switched parties. He's been a Democrat for quite some time now. Going head-to-head, of course, with the Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. At first, it was easy to mistake the scene outside the 99-year-old theater for a DeSantis rally as supporters lined 2nd Street in droves, waving American flags and selling baseball caps and T-shirts because capitalism. Many wore red, the color of the Republican Party of Florida. Shortly before 6 p.m., however, a steady stream of Crist loyalists, led by his running mate, Carla Hernandez, paraded south toward the theater, wearing light pink T-shirts. And then the chanting began, back and forth across the street. The debate hosted by Sinclair Broadcast Group was moderated by WPEC TV anchor Liz Quirantes. I'm trying to say it right. She's wonderful. I've been watching her for years on television. And it began promptly at 7 p.m. and wrapped shortly before 8 p.m., so not a very long debate. Crist won the coin toss to answer the first question, and DeSantis won the toss to close last. There were no surprises among the debate topics, of course, which ranged from abortion rights, critical race theory, and teacher pay, to the opioid epidemic, transgender rights, and immigration. That's not to say the conversation didn't get fiery and the candidates did not stay within their allotted 1-minute answers. Crist, 66 years old, a former Republican, as mentioned, who was governor of our state from 2007 to 2011, and DeSantis, 44, a former congressman, traded barbs as night fell on the Sunrise Theater's marquee group rider and the Sunrise Marquee's group rider, blah, blah, blah. Early on, Crist addressed the elephant in the room, whether DeSantis, a GOP favorite to run against President Joe Biden in 2024, planned on serving a full second 4-year term as governor. Well, DeSantis responded. He said, "I just want to make things very, very clear. The only worn-out old donkey I'm looking to put out to pasture is Charlie Crist." Oh, it never ends. Crist chided, "Ron, we know you love to bully people, and the little name calling you just exchanged, I can take it. Good for you, Charlie." Politics. If you ever see me running for office, because, I'm still a relatively young guy, I have my whole life ahead of me, blah, blah, blah. I could never see it happening, but it may. You never know. Stranger things have happened. Please slap me right in the mouth and tell me I'm a mental case. Good God. I don't even know what I would do standing up there and just having to answer questions and debate with idiots. Because I feel like we live in a time where political facts are just out the window. It's just everybody running their mouth and pandering, which is just the worst. You have to dig so much deeper to get to truth anymore. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the story here. The audience felt the tension in the room, with supporters of both candidates cheering loudly after each exchange until Quirantes held them in check. She said, "Shut up, you." And this is crazy because the public wasn't even allowed in the joint. So you have other politicians and people of power just running their mouths in there. mental. DeSantis touted his handling of Hurricane Ian, which last month devastated Southwest Florida, as well as the coronavirus pandemic. He said, "I'm proud." He said, "Seniors first, focus on the vulnerable population, but make sure you're not locking down the rest of the people, and we thrived as a result." Can't say that that wasn't the truth, at least for me, personally. Christ slammed the current governor for signing off on the legislature's recent election reform. Christ said DeSantis made it harder to mail in ballots, and that's anti-democracy. The two candidates agreed on one thing, however, amazingly. They agreed on Nicholas Cruz, the man who killed 17 people and injured another 17 people at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School back in 2018, should have been sentenced to death instead of life in prison. Good to know that they can agree on that. Chris said it was absolutely abhorrent. You have to do what's right, and it's a tough thing sometimes, but whatever it takes to make sure we can enforce those laws, let's say there are consequences to your actions. DeSantis echoed, "I think Cruz deserved the ultimate punishment." Well, just as the debate reached a fever pitch, it was over. And each candidate making his closing statement, Chris said, "I love Florida. I love her with all my heart. I want to unite her. I want to bring the state back together." Lovely sentiment. DeSantis said, "We will continue the fight. We'll continue to fight the good fight. We'll continue to run the race. We'll continue to keep the faith." That's how I imagine all politicians talk. They all sound like Richard Nixon to me. Anybody old enough to remember Richard Nixon? I am not a crook. The 1,200-seat theater was only about one-third full, mainly with party loyalists and a handful of local leaders, including state representatives Dana Trabulsi, Aaron Grahl, Toby Oberdorf, and Senator Gail Harrell, all Republicans. VIPs also included the entire Fort Pierce City Commission. Lucky them, most of them appearing to hold back any applause or other outward support of either candidate. The debate was the biggest political event at the theater since Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign stop. It was probably a good call for the commission because they're not supposed to run on party lines at all. And, wouldn't want to disturb their voter base. From a security standpoint, the debate appeared to run smoothly, with Fort Pierce Police, St. Lucie County Sheriff's deputies, Florida Department of Law Enforcement officers, and private security scouring the theater inside and out. However, two Christ supporters wearing pink shirts that read "For Choice for Charlie" were escorted out of the debate after shouting "liar" at DeSantis. Debategoers filed out of the Sunrise Theater and dispersed into the night. A few stragglers remained outside the venue, but by 8:30 p.m., 2nd Street was mostly cleared out. And that was the big deal. One whole hour of debate. And now we all get to go out and vote for the governor of Florida. Coming up, I think November 8th, I believe, is Election Day here in Florida, at least in our area. So regardless of where you stand on politics or your ideologies, because that's really all it is an ideology, go and vote. I don't mind if you try to convert me or if you want to give me your opinions. I take all of that. I really genuinely do. I process all that information. I process ideas. I like to feel like I've heard both sides of every story and make my decisions based on information that comes to me from people that I respect, whether I agree with them initially or not. I do take all that into consideration. I think everybody should. I think everybody should process information that they may not think is valuable or doesn't align with their own personal ideologies. You hear countless stories of families being ripped apart by politics and ideological standpoints, and I think it's ridiculous. If you respect each other, you should at least hear each other out. But regardless of any of those things happening, You got to get your ass to the polls. It's important. That's all I have to say about that. Trouble in space. Outer space. The International Space Station had to fire its thrusters to maneuver out of the way of a piece of oncoming Russian space junk late yesterday. Space Agency said in a news release that the ISS conducted a 5-minute, 5-second burn to avoid a fragment of Russia's Cosmos 1408 satellite, which the country destroyed in a weapons test in November of last year. Officials at NASA have previously warned about the risks of proliferation of debris in space caused by a dramatic increase of the numbers of satellites in orbit and several instances of governments intentionally destroying satellites and creating new plumes of junk. Yeah, I feel like every month Elon Musk is sending up new satellites, so that makes perfect sense to me. I'm not complaining because of those satellites, I get to do this. Space station conducted a predetermined debris avoidance maneuver to give the ISS an extra measure of distance away from the predicted track of a fragment of Russian Cosmos 1408 debris. According to the agency, the thruster firing occurred at 8:25 p.m. Eastern Time, and the maneuver had no impact on the station's operations. Without the maneuver, it was predicted that the fragment could have passed within about 3 miles of the station. The burn raised the station's altitude by 0.2 of a mile. On November 15th, 2021, Cosmos 1408, a no longer operational satellite, was destroyed, generating a cloud of debris, including some 1,500 pieces of trackable space debris. U.S. Space Command said Russia tested a direct ascent anti-satellite missile and strongly condemned the anti-satellite test, calling it a reckless and dangerous act and saying it won't tolerate behavior that puts international interests at risk. The ISS was forced to make a similar maneuver in June to avoid debris created by the anti-satellite test. In January, a piece of debris created by that test came within striking distance of a Chinese satellite in an encounter the Chinese government called extremely dangerous. The ISS typically has to shift its orbit to avoid space junk around once a year, maneuvering away from the object if a chance of collision exceeds 1 in 10,000, according to NASA. Invisible in the night sky, there are hundreds of millions of debris objects orbiting our planet. This debris is composed of parts of old satellites as well as entire defunct satellites and rocket bodies. And you wonder why the aliens just stopped coming. They can't even get through Earth's trash pile right out there in space. According to a 2021 report by NASA, at least 26,000 of the pieces of space junk orbiting Earth are the size of a softball or larger, big enough to wreck a satellite. More than 500,000 pieces of debris are marble-sized, capable of damaging spacecraft, while over 100 million pieces are the size of a grain of salt that could puncture a spacesuit. As these fragments knock into each other, they can create yet more pieces of smaller orbital debris. Russia said earlier this year it's planning to pull out of the International Space Station and end its decades-long partnership with NASA at the orbiting outpost, which is due to be retired by 2031. It's crazy out there. Lots of junk to sift through in orbit. What else is going on? I think that's that in the news. We're going to take a quick music break. When we come back, got a couple... I got a music story about Brian Johnson from AC/DC. Finally revealing how he feels about Axl Rose replacing him when he had to depart the band for hearing problems. We'll give you the celebrity birthdays, and if we got time, we'll dive into a top 10. But you are listening to Jams and Coffee in the Morning. Stick around. We'll be right back. Here's one from the one-man band himself, Johnny Depp. Don't go away. Bye.
Fat, you know it may sound funny, but I like her like that. Yeah, I like her like that. Yes, I like her like that. You know it may sound funny, but honey, I like her like that. The next girl loved was big and tall. Her head was in the bed, but her feet was in the hall. Man, I like her like that. Damn, I liked her like that. There was footprints on the ceiling, showed that I'm feeling. Yeah, I liked her like that. Didn't have no teeth, but she was so sweet, you know it's what's underneath. Man, I like her like that. Damn, I like her just like that. You know it may sound gummy, but honey, I like her like that. The moral of the story, yeah, there's one. You know you wanna have a good life, gonna have fun. Find yourself a good gal, you'll never be alone. You know beauty skin deep, but that mean will cut you clean to the bone. Girl loves kind of short and fat. You know it may sound funny, but I like her like that. Yeah, I like her like that. Yeah, I like her just like that. You know it may sound funny, but honey, I like her like that. Oh, the moral of the story, yeah, there's one. You know you wanna have a good life, gonna have fun. Find yourself a good gal, you'll never be alone. You know beauty skin deep, but that mean will cut you clean to the bone.
Back here, Jams and Coffee in the Morning. Thank you for tuning in with me over on YouTube or Facebook, or listening in even on JNC Radio, which you can listen to on our website, jncpodcast.com, or via the Live365 Radio App that's available for free wherever you get your apps from. Back to the gubernatorial debate. I was just looking at the comments over on Facebook page there. Tim Springer, thanks for tuning in, man. My buddy Tim. Yeah, he said his opinion is vote for the one that doesn't want to force a 12-year-old girl to birth a rape baby. I think that's an interesting point. You know, abortion is a huge point in debates, not just here, but of course, you know, all over the country, especially when it comes to children and rape. It's a tough subject, but I think people should talk about it. You know, I don't think anything like that should be taboo. What I also want to know and hear more about is punishments for these types of people that commit these crimes. You know, we always put the consequences on the victims, especially in cases like this. We rarely hear about what happens to the person that committed the heinous act. I want to know what's going on with them. Why is their punishment not as equally life-changing as the crime they've committed? So, give me a candidate that tells me what's going to happen to those people in conjunction with this. Because in my personal opinion, when it comes to women's health, I think that is something that should be dealt with within that person's family and between their healthcare provider. I am hard-pressed. You'll be hard-pressed to change my mind on that. I think that is something that should be discussed within a family and with a healthcare professional. I don't think government should be anywhere near that, touching it with a 10-foot pole or longer. That's just my personal opinion on it. Doesn't have to be right, but I certainly don't feel like it should be some sort of political talking point to get votes. I think that's to me, it seems pretty cut and dry. But when it comes to assailants that get slaps on the wrist for things like that, or off on technicalities, is absolutely absurd to me. So that's stuff that I want to hear about. Like, the people that commit these crimes, what happens to them? So there you go. But thank you for your opinion, Tim. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for tuning in. What else is going on out there? In some music news, Brian Johnson from AC/DC coming out with a book, dropping right at the end of this month. In 6 years since he departed AC/DC mid-tour to address his hearing loss issues, Brian Johnson has seldom commented on Axl Rose's time filling in for him in the band. Seems he was leaving it for this book coming out. AC/DC postponed 10 dates of its 2016 Rock or Bust tour after Johnson's doctors warned him that he would go completely deaf if he continued. Unwilling to cancel the whole tour, the band took some time to regroup and then hired Guns N' Roses frontman and AC/DC superfan Axl Rose to help them finish the touring obligation. In his new autobiography, The Lives of Brian, Johnson acknowledges that Rose did a great job stepping in for him, but he just couldn't watch the band performing without him. Informing AC/DC's tour manager that he couldn't continue the trek was hard enough, Johnson recalls, but the frontman's feelings on it only got worse when he returned home and watched as the tour simply went on without me, he says. It's like finding a stranger in your house, sitting in your favorite chair, Johnson said of his feelings on Rose taking his place. But I bear no grudges. It was a tough situation. Angus Young and the lads did what they felt they had to do. That said, after the band released a statement confirming that I was leaving the tour and wishing me all the best in the future, I couldn't relax or concentrate on anything. It was just always there. Johnson continued, noting that he'd performed through all manner of maladies through his career, but his hearing loss wasn't treatable, and there was nothing he could do. He recalls what I was feeling wasn't depression, it was something closer to despair. He says he threw himself back into his other love, auto racing, which he says was a much bigger factor in his hearing loss than rock and roll. Johnson writes, I found myself winning more than usual. People would come up to me after and say, Brian, you're fearless. I wasn't fearless. I just didn't fucking care anymore. But I'd always thought that the best way to go out would be at 180 miles an hour, flat out around a corner. You'd hit the wall and boom, it would just be over. Just like that. Don't get me wrong, I didn't want to die. I just wouldn't have minded all that much, he says. But the story picks up from there. Johnson eventually got back on stage, performing as a guest with other big rock bands, including Muse and the Foo Fighters. He even returned to AC/DC in 2018 to record the band's Power Up studio album. It's all a credit to the developers of a new in-ear monitoring technology developed for people with his particular hearing issues. Johnson described the new tech as magic. Allowed him to hear a band on stage again. He said, even in my deaf ear, meaning I was able to enjoy stereo again. The music came back, so did his hope. So The Lives of Brian is set for a worldwide release on October 28th, just a few days from now. So check that out if you'd like a good read. And some celebrity birthdays today. Knock those out. Turning 38 years old today, Miss Katy Perry, pop singer who gained fame in 2008 after releasing the hit I Kissed a Girl. Her 2010 album Teenage Dream featured 5 songs that topped the U.S. Billboard Hot 100, earning her the distinction of being the first female artist to achieve the feat. She was also voted Woman of the Year by Billboard in 2012, and in 2018 she became a judge on American Idol. She also did a super cool thing. She's got a Las Vegas residency right now, and as we talked about, that emo festival was canceled over the weekend due to high winds, and so a bunch of these people actually went and bought Katy Perry tickets to try to salvage their day. She recognized that this had happened, and she gave them massive shout-outs and really kind of pandered to them for her whole show, giving them a special viewing, if you will, or, special treatment, because she understood the gravity of the situation. So I thought that was very nice. And now she's celebrating her 38th birthday. Happy birthday, Katy Perry. Just a year younger than her, Grammy Award-winning R&B singer Ciara, turning 37 years old today, gained recognition for her first hit Goodies back in 2004 and her 2006 single Promise. She sang 1-2 Step and has sold over 7 million albums. Her single Get Up featured Chameleonaire and hit number 7 on the U.S. Billboard 200. Ciara, 37. She's a lot younger than I thought she was. She must have been a baby back in 2004. Actor Adam Goldberg, turning 52 years old today, had a supporting role in the movie Saving Private Ryan as Private Stanley Fish Mellish. His other films include Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco, Dazed and Confused, and Zodiac. Turning 65 years old today, Ms. Nancy Cartwright. She's best known for providing the voice to Bart Simpson on the most successful animated television show in history, The Simpsons, of course. She also voiced the character Rufus on the series Kim Possible. 65. She's young, too. Turning 47 years old today, famous for his portrayal of twins Van and Jethro West in the hit New Zealand television series Outrageous Fortune, Anthony Starr. Also known for his starring role as ex-con Lucas Hood in Cinemax's Banshee series. He's recognizable for playing the character Homelander on the popular TV show The Boys. That's where I would know him from. Anthony Starr, turning 47. Turning 33 years old today, double 3, is actress Mia Wasikowska. I think that's how you say it. She's the talented star of course, the Alice in Wonderland films. Also, The Kids Are All Right, and Stoker. She won a 2009 South by Southwest Film Festival Award for her role in That Evening's Sun. 33. A musical birthday, turning 61, a staggering 61 years old today, drummer for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Chad Smith. He's also played for the hard rock group Chickenfoot and the instrumental band Chad Smith's Bombastic Meat Bats. Chad Smith turning 61 years old today, and rounding out our birthday list this morning, turning 51 years old, the actor best known for his role as Daryl Philbin on the television show The Office, Craig Robinson. He's frequently acted in supporting roles in several comedic films. Hot Tub Time Machine comes to mind. Most ridiculous movie I've ever seen, and I love it. Craig Robinson, happy birthday. All right. There are your birthdays. I guess we got time to get through a top 10. Let's see. Here's a good creepy, keeping with our creepy theme. Here's a good creepy one. A historical creepy one. Certain periods of history are known to have a particular aesthetic, and perhaps no period in history brings to mind very specific aspects like the Wild, Wild West. It would later become the western half of the United States of America, possessed a dramatic, dynamic history during the 19th century. Gold rushes, railroads, the plights of indigenous tribes, and of course cowboys and outlaws are probably the first things that come to mind when one thinks of the early American frontier. And many legends, such as Jesse James or Buffalo Bill, are still remembered to this day. Some legends, however, skew a bit more supernatural than just some town that happens to be big enough, or some town that happens to not be big enough for both a sheriff and an outlaw. The Wild West is as beautiful as it is isolated and has a rich history stretching far before European colonists even reached the eastern part of the continent. And this list details 10 haunting legends from the lawless lands out west. This is the JNC Top 10. All right, kicking off our list here, we're going to talk about the Haunted Bullock Hotel. The HBO Wild West show Deadwood was indeed based on a real-life South Dakota gold rush town by the same name. In fact, the main character and store owner turned sheriff, Seth Bullock, was just as real. And according to legend, he still keeps tabs on the town of Deadwood from beyond the grave. The Bullock Hotel was built in the last decade of the 1800s and is a location where the spirit of Bullock apparently keeps tabs on his property. The ex-sheriff, however, isn't a malicious spirit, often only engaging in prankster poltergeist activities such as moving chairs, slamming doors shut, and knocking objects over. It's claimed that the spirit even aided a lost young boy find his way back to his parents' room. The parents asked the child who helped him find his way. He simply pointed at a portrait of Seth Bullock. Spooky. Number 9 on our list. When haunted ships sailing the seas seem like an overrated concept, look no further than the landlocked state of Wyoming, where, against all odds, a haunted sailing ship is said to sail. Worry not, though. Wyoming's death ship does stick to a body of water. It sails the Platte River specifically, instead of somehow drifting through the deserts or the plains. The Platte River death ship is said to appear to one person every 25 years, though it does far more than simply sail silently on a river. According to legend, witnesses unlucky enough to spot the vessel materializing out of the fog also see the illusory corpse of someone they know among the spectral sailors. Shortly after, the person witnessed is said to die in the real world. This is what occurred when the death ship's first witness, back in 1862, trapper Leon Weber, who saw his fiancée on the haunted frigate. The woman said to have died the exact same day of Weber's sighting. A little premonition there. Number 8. Just because some place is called a ghost town doesn't mean it's necessarily home to any ghosts. Some places simply become abandoned and are left to the elements. The ghost town known as Garnett, however, is an exception to that rule. Located on the western side of Montana, this still-standing ex-boom town has multiple buildings that allegedly house restless spirits. Kelly's Saloon, for example, is probably the most notorious, where one can hear the raucous sounds of music and laughter without a single living person on the premises. The Wells Hotel is also plagued by strange, incorporeal footsteps, doors slamming, and more strange laughter. The town grew in popularity in 1865 when gold was found at nearby First Chance Gulch. Though when the gold dried up in 1905, less than 100 people remained until eventually there was no one there. Number 7 on our list today. From the supposed spectral funeral train of Abraham Lincoln in Illinois to the equally haunted illusory locomotive in Louisiana, ghost trains are a staple in American folklore. And the Wild West, being particularly affected by the invention of the steam train, is no stranger to such stories. One of the most infamous ghost trains of the frontier was once sighted in the area of Marshall Pass in Colorado in the 1880s, a route that connected Denver to Santa Fe. Engineer Nelson Edwards was steering his locomotive along the icy Colorado tracks when suddenly he heard and saw what sounded like a train right behind his own. A train that wouldn't decelerate and would soon crash. A warning light showed, telling Edwards it was required that he brake. He bit the bullet and he pulled the lever. Mysteriously, no train collided with his own, and Edwards' locomotive was safe. However, after receiving a mysterious note detailing the accounts of a crashed train years prior, Nelson Edwards immediately retired the next day. Well, ghost story, pushing somebody into retirement. Crazy stuff. Number 6 on our list. With such a colorful name, one would expect this Nevada Spectre to also have a colorful history. Well, Big Jack Davis was an accomplished train and stagecoach robber. In the 1860s, however, one unsuccessful robbery would end with the outlaw getting shot in the back and killed. Though his unclaimed fortune in the Nevada wilderness would grow a reputation that exceeded Davis's while alive. However, where normal spirits of the deceased manifest as ghosts, Big Jack Davis would allegedly change into something more. Described as a shrieking white demon, it's said that the outlaw grew wings from the bullet holes in his back, and according to legend, he would chase away anyone who dared search for his hoard. That is terrifying. Number 5 on our list, when one thinks of the Wild West, most often the Wild Southwest. It features in most Western movies, but the western half of Canada is also filled with a rich history and stunning landscape. Also, if the legends are to be believed, it was a particularly haunting location where many prospectors hoping to strike it rich in the 19th and 20th century Yukon Gold Rush would meet a grisly fate. From supposed cannibal giants to cryptid dire wolves to a dozen actual documented disappearances and mysterious murders, the Nahanni River Valley in the Northwest Territories of Canada is an enormous hodgepodge of paranormal activity. Although the largest swath of mysterious circumstances occurred at the height of the Yukon Gold Rush in the late 19th century. Perhaps the most notable case, however, is the deaths of prospecting brothers Willie and Frank McLeod, whose bodies were found to be decapitated after allegedly finding a rich prospect. Spooky, 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 spooky. Number 4 on our list today. Keeping with the decapitation theme, this next headless legend is found toward the southernmost end of the western frontier this time. In southern Texas, near the border with Mexico, is where the tale of El Muerto runs wild. Though the translation from Spanish to English is a bit on the nose, simply meaning the dead, El Muerto is nonetheless a horrifying spirit to cross paths with. In 1850, a horse thief who went by the name Vidal stole prized Mustangs from Texas Rangers Creed Taylor and William Alexander Anderson Wallace. That's a long name. When they tracked the bandit down, the Rangers decided to leave behind a grisly warning to other would-be horse thieves. They decapitated the man and strapped his body to his horse to ride off into the sunset. Vidal's body, though, would allegedly escape decomposition. For the next few decades, unfortunate frontier folk would spot the ominous headless horseman of Texas riding in the wilderness, giving him the name El Muerto. Number 3 on our list. The aptly named Tombstone in Arizona is the site of many gruesome deeds, though perhaps the most memorable is the accidental death of Fred White by Curly Bill Brocious in 1880. Though a mistake, White was indeed the marshal of the town, and Brocious towed the line of an outlaw by belonging to the notorious Clanton gang. Though less flashy than a classic cowboy quick draw, it's said that the marshal's black-coated specter is still seen in the streets of Tombstone, which has survived to this day as a tourist attraction. His ghost isn't alone, however, as the spirit of a woman in a white dress is often also seen. In addition to the ghosts of victims of the Bisbee Massacre, the result of a failed stick-up, though often embellished, Tombstone's sordid story or history is rife with outlaw gang violence and crime, so a well-established history of hauntings isn't too out of place. Number 2 on our list, as we make it down our Wild West supernatural stories. Some legends are some legends are the sort that are fun to tell around a campfire, and some legends are a heavily believed subject, even to this day, and the mere mention of them in passing is a taboo subject. The Navajo tales of the shape-shifting witch known as the Skinwalker are such a legend that even talking about it, let alone taking it lightly, is extremely looked down upon. One alleged hotbed of paranormal activity can be found in Uintah County, Utah, which was colloquially dubbed Skinwalker Ranch, after Terry and Gwen Sherman bought the property back in 1994. The Sherman family supposedly played witness to a rash of cattle mutilations, massive, magically bulletproof wolves, and even UFOs and poltergeist activity until they sold the property 2 years later. The legend of the ranch itself is more modern. The eponymous monster therein has apparently been spotted for centuries in nearby cursed Bottle Hollow. Although it's important to note that the neighboring area belongs to the Ute tribe, not the Navajo. Ugh, Skinwalker. Blech. And number one on our list today, you'll recognize this name. Unsurprisingly, one of America's most infamous outlaws is the subject of many legends that even go beyond his exploits as a living, breathing criminal. Jesse James Farm in the town of Kearney, Missouri, is both the location of the outlaw's death at the hands of fellow gang member Robert Ford in 1882, as well as the location of James's supposed ghost. Ethereal footsteps and horse hooves can be heard where none are present. Shadows move without tripping security alarms, and even the sounds of a sudden gunshot can be heard from inside the property. In fact, the James family itself claims that their home was haunted well before the notorious outlaw grew up and started his crime spree, even seeing the apparitions of Civil War soldiers on the premises. However, activity certainly increased after James's death by gunshot. There you have it, our Spooky Top 10. Yes. All right, you guys, I'm going to let you get back on with your Tuesday. Once again, I hope that you join us. Join us tomorrow night. Well, join me tomorrow morning. Join us tomorrow night for our JNC Halloween Spooktacular. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about it. And thank you so much for joining me this morning. Take care of yourselves and each other. Do something nice for someone today. And be kind. Broadcasting live from the legendary JNC Lounge, I'm Brad Brock. Good day.
Tune in again tomorrow morning for the latest local buzz, national headlines, music news, and more on JNC in the Morning, right here on Facebook and YouTube.